This episode originally aired on March 11th, 2022. Our client today is our good friend Darron Wood from the Defense Diaries podcast. One of my favorites. You should go check that out. Sorry about the audio on this one. I haven't upgraded to Starlink yet, so sometimes Zoom sucks. Okay? I'm sorry.
In New Orleans, is this like a famous story? Like, you guys learn this in school? Do you guys learn about the Axemen when you're in grade 7?
School in New Orleans. No, we don't learn anything in school in New Orleans ever. You guys help people solve mysteries and such. Is that am I in the right place?
You are. Good day to you, sir. How did you find our service?
The sign on the front says, "If you need us, come inside." So I came inside.
I didn't realize the sign was working.
Very thorough sign. I don't know if you guys.
I told you specificity is the key to wealth.
That's why I put you in charge of the sign, RJ.
Mm-hmm. I typed it out in Comic Sans and then scotch taped it to the front of the door.
But you scotch taped the shit out of it though. It was perfect.
Thank you.
So yeah, I got this whole Axeman murder New Orleans situation that no one can seem to figure out. Give me a hand with that.
Yeah.
An elite team of private detectives.
What if balloons are aliens? Maybe that's the key component we're missing.
Cover-ups.
John's guilty.
Mysteries that need to be solved.
Maybe Mormons need mountains.
Richard, shut up.
Do you guys know anything about the Axemen? I know Darron does, but you two other dicks know anything about the Axemen of New Orleans? I know you do, RJ. You were talking about it.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay. That's good. This will be fun. Good. All right. So the one we're doing today is kind of a brutal one. The Axeman of New Orleans killed 6 people and injured 6 others over the course of just over a year in the early 1900s. His signature kill was with an axe, but the Axeman also used other objects he could find at the scene, including a straight razor. And he mostly killed Italians. So that's
that is a big bonus point of his for me.
Sicilians specifically. This is the second week in a row we've been ragging on Italians. So is there still a huge Italian population in New Orleans, Darron?
God willing, not anymore.
I think the ex murderer, there's at least 6 less. You know? You gotta start somewhere.
The serial killer known as the Axeman has never been identified, but we're gonna fucking crush this mystery today because why not? We gotta go back to the early 1900s for this one. Usually I bring us into the 1800s, so we're this is more contemporary. Right back to 1918, May 23rd. In fact, that's my wife's birthday. Actual birthday. My wife is 104 this year.
Nice.
It's not Piccadilly or whatever. Yeah.
She's cradle robbing and you're grave robbing.
Yeah, exactly.
Richard, I think we've agreed that we're not going to give up our sources for our early 1800s. All right. Let's not tell people where we get all of our information from.
So Joseph and Catherine Maggio were asleep in their bed after a hard day working in their grocery store. The Sicilian immigrants had run his family-owned grocery for 6 years, respected and well-known members of their community. Mr. and Mrs. Joe is what they were known around the neighborhood. They had no kids, but their store was a fixture. They actually, a lot of people that had grocers back then actually lived in the back of the store. They don't really have that anymore with like Walmarts and shit, but back in the day, you'd like live in the front part or in the back part, and then the front would be like your store. This is for most of the victims today. They were all Italian grocers, which is very specific.
They also happen to hate jazz, every one of them.
The Italians, yeah, they like crooning music, like Frank Sinatra shit. They don't like the good jazz. They like the slow jazz.
When was this again?
1818 or 1918.
Yeah, they're just so they hated all music because they knew one day Frank Sinatra would be born.
Exactly.
I'm just waiting for that good shit in like 200 years.
So Joseph's brother, Andrew, who was a barber, lived in their house as well. They didn't have a barber shop in their grocery store. That would be kind of weird. It wouldn't be like a grocer barber house. It was just a grocer house. The barber shop was in the same building, but it was 2 stores beside. directly beside the grocer, and between the grocer and the barber, there was like a bar. I just think it would be gross if they did have the barber shop in the grocer, like Miss Joe slicing you off a hunk of fucking salami and Mr. Joe sleeping on the couch in the back while Andy gives you a buzz cut behind. That's disgusting.
Yeah, they're Italians though, so it would track.
Yeah, they're Italians. They're gonna get hair in their food anyway. Is that what you meant by that?
Oh yeah, that.
Anyway, so the Maggios are sleeping in their bed, and we know this because Andrew came home that night at about 2 a.m. after a long night of drinking at the bar next door. He had actually gotten drafted to World War I, and he was. People keep writing celebrating, but I don't think anybody really fucking celebrates when they get drafted to war. I think he was going there to get drunk because he's fucked. You know, like I think he's just like, my life is I'm probably dead, so let's get hammered. But when he got home at 2 a.m., he said that Joseph and Catherine were already in bed and they were already sleeping. So all three, I guess Andrew went and passed out in his bed, and they slept soundly till about 4:45 when Andrew is awoken by the sound of moaning coming from his brother's room that was directly beside them. Andrew wakes up. I'm assuming, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming he thought he was fucking. He thought him and the wife were fucking. He like smashes on the wall, like, shut up in there. There's people trying to sleep. And then the moaning got worse. And he realized, oh, they're not fucking. That's something bad's happening. You know, it's not happy moaning. It's bad moaning. So Andrew bursts into his brother's room to check on them. Just kidding. What he does is he runs outside in fear, and he goes to get his other two brothers who live nearby, which I find hilarious. Like that's so Italian, you know, like 15 brothers living within 4 house lengths. So he runs and he goes to get his brother, and he brings his brother posse back to the house grocery store, and they knock down the door of Joseph and Catherine's room to find their brother and his wife in a bloody mess. Catherine was on the floor, essentially decapitated in a pool of her and Joseph's blood. Joseph was laying diagonally on the bed with his feet on the ground beneath his wife. Joseph was actually barely alive, still breathing, moaning. He was the one moaning for fucking someone help me, basically, I'm guessing. Or maybe he liked it, I don't know. They call an ambulance. Ambulance shows up. As they get him into the back of the ambulance, he dies before they can shut the door.
I'm sorry, is it 1800 somethings and they had an ambulance?
It's 1918.
Still, what the fuck is an ambulance in 1918?
New Orleans. We don't have roads now. How do they have roads back then?
Back that, yeah, it's just a fucking airboat with some guy going wee woo, wee woo.
He was doing that anyway. It's not because it's just happy. The Cajun siren on happiness.
In 1918, they would have had cars, but there would have been very few and far between. But I'm guessing the ambulance would have been one of the very few cars that existed. But it would have had like those big spoke wheels and shit. It wouldn't have been efficient.
He's like, right now, we still don't have roads. It's a real issue.
Oh my God.
It's just a paramedic who's like, hop on. Like he just carries you like backpack.
Yeah. You probably aren't going to make it, but you can get on if you need. I'm not today. We're going slow.
Get out of the way, I gotta die in Italian by my back.
Right.
After investigation, it was shown that the intruder must have jumped the fence around the back of the house, used a chisel to cut out a manhole inside the locked door. So he cut the panel out with a chisel while everyone was sleeping, jumps through the manhole, and he grabs an axe that he found in the backyard and brings it in with him. Then, axe in hand, walks through their house door and goes into the room where Mr. and Mrs. Joe were sleeping. As they slumber, the Axeman slits the throat of Joseph first. Catherine probably wakes up with the warm feeling of blood all over her body, and there was blood splatter 7 feet long all the way up the wall onto the ceiling. She gets up to run or tries to fight him off. I'm guessing run, because if I saw that, I'd be like shocked. I wouldn't be like, I can save you, you know what I mean? Like, I think I'd get out of there. You're already covered in blood. So she gets up to run, I'm assuming. The Axeman slits her throat as well. But he gets her real good. He gets her right down to the fucking past the jugular. Kind of like Nicole Brown Simpson. Like, turned her into a human Pez.
Borderline, yeah. Nice.
I already think the brother did it. Sorry if I remember true in the whole point of the show. But
the brother's one of the theories for sure.
We still get paid, right?
Yeah, if he sells it.
Okay, because we facilitated it.
I thought I just became like part of. I work with y'all now, so I thought that's what what happens.
Well, you can work with us if you pay us. Yeah,
Maybe.
for the privilege.
Hey,
But
Bob.
that does apply because it's kind of like a therapist. You know, it's like you just say things that you already know are true, but they enable you to realize your own feelings. We enable people to solve their own mysteries.
It says about I'm taking this about as seriously as I've taken therapy I've ever had. So it feels
Good.
pretty
So you understand the concept then. Perfect.
and I was confused until just now.
This episode sponsored by BetterHelp.ca. Anyways.
Do you produce a podcast from your own fucking basement and think about maybe not doing anything ever again? Better help. From the same computer that you can see your shitty reflection in. Better.
For the initial throat slits on both Mr. and Mrs. Joe, he used the straight razor. The barber's house. It was found at the scene. And Andrew slept through the whole thing. You know, I've been drunk, though. I've passed out. I've slept through a lot of crazy shit before. So I get that part, I guess. But he slept through the whole thing.
I mean, I killed my brother and his wife once. I know how I got away with it. So,
yeah. But the fun part about I shouldn't say fun. It's not fun. It's fucking murder. But I mean, it's 100 years ago. But the fun part about the whole thing is that the Axeman's name is the Axeman for a reason. It's not the Razor Man. So he brought that axe in with him. So he already cut both their throats, but instead he just decides he's going to bash Mr. Maggio's head in with the axe after they're both already throat slit.
is his last name Maggio or DiMaggio?
It's Maggio. I wish it was DiMaggio. It'd be funnier.
So close.
So yeah, he had axe slashes all over his body, including his head. He had fractured skull, and he still survived, which I find crazy.
The old Italian fucking get her done, you know. Fucking takes a bashing and keep whatever around bashing that's insulting to Italians.
It's not very insulting, actually. It's kind of implying that like Italians are like fucking Toyotas.
That's not what I meant at all.
Not what I mean at all, Lisa.
No,
Just to clarify, no.
I would like to go on record and say that I was not trying to say anything positive.
Oh man, I love Darren.
This is Bob, by the way. I want to say that
Yeah.
for anyone who can just hear my voice. This is obviously Bob, or whatever he sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't really know why he did it. I just think it's because he brought it with him. That's why if he's like, I brought it, I might as well use it.
It's heavy.
Doesn't waste time, you know what I mean? Doesn't waste actions. Very efficient man. So the Axeman flees back from the back of the house where he came through the manhole and leaves the axe where they die. Beside the axe, the investigators found a chisel. So that's how they thought why they thought it was a chisel that he chiseled through the door.
I'm no fucking thief. I'll smash their heads in and slit their fucking throats, but I'm not a fucking thief. I'll leave the axe where I found it.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't steal anything either. That's one of the big things about this. None of these were financially motivated. There was an open safe and there was an empty safe. It was open and empty, but they had just done a huge deposit earlier in the day. So they think that the Maggio's already there wasn't like that was stolen from.
Saying DiMaggio, and I hear DiMaggio every time.
Yeah, it's just Maggio. Sorry.
The Maggio. Yeah, we'll just change it for now. Refer to him as the Maggio, and then you can say it.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Of Maggio.
This has been the key the whole time. This is why they couldn't solve it, because they kept saying Maggio. It's actually DiMaggio, and if you take the D, anyways, this is how we're going to solve it. So that's why we did it. In the yard next door, detectives Theo Obitz and Harry Dobson, Detective Harry Dobson, find some blood-soaked clothing. It's like the Axeman changed his clothes before leaving. Like he just stripped down, got all the bloody shit off. Must have had some sort of backpack or something, or he was Andrew and just got changed in his room.
Question real quick. Why is it every time we do something old-timey, the names always sound made up as fuck?
Yeah, I know. Hey, this is true.
Harry Dobson is literally the most fucking made-up detective name. Especially for the early 1900s. It sounds like a fucking Mad Men character.
They should at least go with like a New Orleans sounding name or whatever, you know. It's not even. Yeah. I've never heard any of these fucking what. He's a famous fucking Dobson, New Orleans family. They own Dobson.
You're actually going to be shocked, I think, of what the population was early 1900s in New Orleans, because I was shocked. I will get to it, but I mean, there was a lot of fucking Italians, like way more than I thought.
Sounds like a nightmare.
A block down the street, detectives find written on the sidewalk in chalk, quote, "Miss Maggio is going to sleep tonight just like Miss Tony." And then the story hit the paper the next day with headlines like, "Couples hacked to death with axe and sleep." So like they didn't fuck around with headlines back then. They did not make you have to figure out the details. Like,
here, we had a couple of clues for you. I have a question about this chalk situation.
sure.
He doesn't bring a fucking axe, but he brings sidewalk chalk with him. Is this where they were little axes? Every piece of chalk was shaped like an axe.
Yeah.
He originally wanted to be known as the New Orleans Chalk Man.
Right? Yeah. He's still
The
alive.
Creole chalk man. The
Chalk man never died.
It could have been, honestly, it could have been just like some kids who left their chalk out while playing hopscotch. I don't know if they had chalk like that back then. I don't even know how common chalk was. They did find a message saying about Miss Maggio, though, and about Miss Tony.
That's Southern hospitality at its finest right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a heads up, guys. If you keep walking this way, there's a bloody fucking mess of these Italians I left. Heads up. We're on the sidewalk.
God bless.
Right. And a good day to you, sir.
After seeing the chalk message, the detectives start pulling up cases from years prior that involved someone with the last name Tony, because they're like, if there's Miss Maggio sleeping, there must have been a murdered lady named Tony. And they came across 4 other axe murders from 1911 that were all victims. They were all Italian grocers.
They came across, like, they just had these lying around. They're like, well, no one's going to solve these. Better put them over there.
Well, it's not like they had the internet and they just like, nobody remembers. Like 10 years, or like 8 years.
Nobody
or
remembers 7 years?
Been to New Orleans?
RJ, they move on. Okay, you got to learn to move on.
It's because they're Italian. That's why they're like, all right, put it in the Italian box. We're never going to look at it again.
True.
Right in the old Italian box. You know what I'm saying?
Stop talking about my mom. Anyways, the 4 from 1910 or 1911 have been debunked as Axeman murders because the MO just doesn't match. But a lot of people do mention them. If you're going to go out and read about the Axeman murders,
wait, no, hold the fuck up. There. How does the MO not match? It's Italians murdered by an axe. Oh,
yeah, I'll tell you why. One of them was an axe. Out of all 4 of those, one of them was an axe. The other thing, they also had guns. The axe was brought, first of all. Some of them were cleavers that people were chopped up with. It wasn't, the guy was called the Cleaver when he first came out into the 4 murders. He wasn't even called the Axeman. He was called the Cleaver in the papers. They put them together because it's easy, but if you look at it from like a today standpoint, they didn't break in that way. They asked for money. They talked to the victims before, the guys who came in with the cleavers. They're like, give us all your money. Now there's no money motivation. One guy got shot in the fucking head. They brought a revolver to the thing. So it's not really the same, but they are brutal and they all do involve a sharp, heavy blade. So kind of you can put them together, but looking at it from today's lens, they say not really. It starts in 1918. The Axeman, the Cleaver's a different guy whenever it was caught.
I think you gotta work your way up to axe. I think the axe evolution starts with Cleaver. You know,
that's true.
Cleaver didn't really
That's
fucking.
true.
Yeah,
And then it ends with the gun. The secret, it shoots axes. It's a gun. It's an axe shooting gun.
The next one. So you're talking about the next Axeman will be an axe gun guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you claiming that? Like, is that your legacy or what? Man, it's all yours. I'm sorry. You want it.
I'm going out in a hail of axes. If I go out, I'm going out in a hail of axes. All right.
That'd be fucking sick, dude.
Yeah. It is a good way to die. For sure.
I have a couple of unrelated questions, but I guess I don't really.
He was shot to death with an axe.
New Orleans is crazy.
All right. So one of the 4 victims was last name Tony, though. He was chopped up with, I think that was the one that was shot. So it doesn't really make sense, but it does make sense that they might have been connected they must have been connected in some way. but nobody ever caught the connection. It was 1918, and plus it was Italians. Nobody liked Italians back then. We'll get into it.
Back then.
Well, even now.
Never change.
But back then, worse.
I'd like to be upfront about the fact that I am half Italian and I feel justified in being ethnically unkind to them.
My son's half.
Oh, so if he's half Italian, then yeah, I justify being unkind to them as well.
Cool. Perfect. As long as I can share that with you. And...
Did you say your son's half?
Yeah. Well, my ex-wife's from Sicily, so.
New Orleans. Honestly, you have way more of a right to hate them than I do. Then, even being half Italian.
Yeah. Married for 4 years, and still that was 18 years ago.
The bitter taste of garlic is still in your mouth.
Oh God. Garlic. That was my favorite part. Easily the best part of that relationship.
That's fucking hilarious.
BetterHelp.
Yeah, BetterHelp.ca. If they don't sponsor us, just go there anyway.
They're not going to. I'm sorry to burst your bubble.
Yeah, we have this podcast that's weirdly racist against Italians, asking us to do a sponsorship.
Yeah, how do we feel about that?
Italian is not a race, for the record.
I agree. I'm unhappy with the verbiage I use there, because that is what so many Italian people use. They claim that they are not white, and that drives me crazy.
But they hate everyone else that's not white too, from my experience.
Exactly. Some of the most racist people I've ever met in my
Italian
life.
race is like it's a walking race for sure. It's not to the top of the dean's list. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not a scholastic race, that's for sure.
I've seen Jersey Shore. I understand. Back to 1918, a little over a month after the Maggio murders, on June 27th, 1918, another Italian grocer is attacked in the middle of the night. Louis Bessemer, who lived behind his grocery store like the Maggios, and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, were attacked with his own axe by a shadowy figure in the middle of the night. Bessemer and Lowe were both Polish. Oh, yeah, this guy's not Italian. He's the only one that's not Italian.
Bessemer's not Italian.
No, he's the only one who's not. I forgot. I wrote that down.
Now I feel bad.
Polish? You care about the Polacks?
I'm sorry. Are they not Italian?
That was racist.
Yeah.
I'm going to be straight up with this right off the top. I'm not Polish. I just don't like Polish people. All right.
Okay. Then, yeah, that's fine then.
I'm in Chicago.
You're going to get them in trouble out there.
Boulevard or whatever. I am. I got to look around.
The Polish gangs that roam around. That's where all the violence in Chicago comes from.
The Van Buren boys or whatever.
All right. So Lowe or Bessemer and Lowe were both Polish. They're the only ones that weren't Italian. Sorry, my fault for saying Italian. That's not what I meant. They were grocers, though. So there's similarity that way. They were found in a pool of their own blood at 7 a.m. by the bakery delivery man, John Zanka. Louis Bessemer had been hacked in the head with his own axe, fracturing his skull. Lowe was struck with an axe over her left ear, which got hacked off. Her ear actually was severed from her head. Both were still clinging to life, but unconscious. This is what I find. This is the craziest part about the story. This guy's attacking people with axes in their sleep, and he's not killing them. It makes zero sense to me. I don't know how that could even happen.
I mean, he's just very weak.
I mean, what are they giving you? They're saying where this happened, the actual address of the location, perchance.
It did, but I didn't include it because I thought it was useless. But obviously, what you're going to ask me for is that it's in the lower French Quarter or something like that. A lot of Italians. It was in the French Quarter.
Okay, I mean the French Quarter.
But I don't know. The streets were there. The streets were there, but I didn't put them down. But obviously, you're going to ask for that.
I mean, you didn't write that part down, so I don't even really give a shit. I just wanted to bring it up because I knew you didn't do it.
No, it was a good way to point out how ineffective I guess we are being detectives.
Can you detect the location of this crime?
I could definitely tell you. It would just take me a couple seconds.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, our listeners don't want the facts, please.
Yeah.
Just the bullshit.
Just make up an address. I doubt anyone will double check it.
652 Jerry Street.
Jerry Street. Nice.
That sounds fake.
And that
Jerry
locals know not to. If you're Polish, don't go down 625 Jerry Street after dark.
Especially the 600 and 700 specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bessemer actually recovered from his injuries, getting smashed in the head twice with a fucking axe. But Lowe died on August 5th, 7 weeks after the initial attacks.
7 weeks.
Yeah, she didn't die from the wounds, though. She died 2 days after a surgery to repair the fucked up nerves in her ear area where her head was half chopped off. So she died in surgery trying to repair her fucking already smashed up face.
I think it still counts though, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
It also probably is heavily dependent on what nerve surgery in fucking 1918 looked like. Because I'm picturing it's probably as like gentle and delicate as hitting her in the side of the head with a fucking axe. So yeah. So now the way we fix the nerve damage is we hit her with the other side of the axe, the blunt side.
Oh, yeah.
Just reverse it.
Bessemer and Lowe were actually in the center of like a media frenzy after the attack, not really because of the attack, but because of what the shit Lowe was saying when she came out of it. She was all smashed up and she was saying some crazy shit. She was saying that Bessemer, he was a German spy, and she could prove it because he had letters in the house that were in all sorts of different languages.
Well, I mean, we can't rule it out.
Oh, here we go.
Spy theories.
I do love the spy theories. When do spy theories not work?
When they're Polish spies?
Yeah.
I mean, I can hear Darren changing his theory as we speak. So
the part of the media frenzy thing, I'm just trying to summarize it real quick because it's kind of stupid. But I mean, they said that they were husband and wife when the attack happened, and everyone was saying his wife was attacked. And then his real wife came back she was in like Chicago or something. She showed up back and she's like, I'm actually married to Bessemer. This is just his mistress. So then they started to not trust Lowe because she was saying everyone was trying to arrest Louis. They were trying to put him in jail right away because they wanted to get the media off the whole thing. So him being a German spy, fuck, that's perfect. Let's make that guy the bad guy for sure. But then the wife came and she's like, no, this guy's my husband. And I don't know what the fuck this chick's talking about.
Wait, so they didn't like look into the woman at all. They were just like, you're his wife.
It's 1918. What are they don't have the internet.
Okay, but then if they didn't know what they were talking about because it was the year, what did they do when the other one came back? And then they had to figure it out. It's like, oh fuck it, this guy just has got 2 wives, I guess.
No, he was like, they were lying because that girl didn't want to be called a whore back in the day. Really, you know what I mean? They were just like trying to save face. All it did was prove that she was lying, and then she died. Interestingly enough, though, on the day she died, which was August 5th of 1918, another alleged attack from the Axemen took place. 28-year-old pregnant Anna Schneider was awoken by a dark figure standing over her in the middle of the night. The figure then bashed her face in with a lamp that had been sitting on the nearby table. Her scalp had been cut and her face was full of blood. The Axeman had broken through the window, which had been shown to be forced to be opened. So he like jammed through and then they also had like mosquito netting over everyone back then because there was no AC and shit like that. So they cracked the windows, but nobody wanted to get bitten by mosquitoes. So everyone would have. So the Axeman like actually cut through the mosquito webbing too, but he can't bash their heads in properly. She woke up before he could do anything.
Can we talk about the Schneider last name not being Italian also?
She's Italian though. Sorry.
How the fuck is she Italian? Last name Schneider.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Don't ask me. Her husband might not have been Italian, but she was. Maybe her husband was. What's Schneider? What would that be? Jewish?
Yeah, maybe he was a German spy trying to ingratiate himself with the Italian community, but then for some reason did not change his last name.
None of the people in this We Are Murdering Italian story are Italian. Seems like somebody should have noticed that by now. Is all I'm saying.
I personally, the Anna Schneider one, I don't think is the Axeman. Personally, because he doesn't even use an axe in this one. He just smashed her with a lamp.
Yeah, which I would like to say, I doubt in the middle of the night she was awoken by a dark figure standing over her. I'm pretty sure she was probably awoken by the lamp.
Smashing her head?
Yeah, I think that would be the...
She survived, so this is from her account. So I don't know.
I don't believe her.
I feel like I gotta say, I feel like we missed. There's like a Van Gogh joke in that last scenario.
Yeah, can we rewind real quick?
I've been putting it together. It's in there somewhere with the whole ear getting chopped in.
Fucked up
Yeah.
that opportunity.
She was all smashed up, and she was found by her husband Ed at around midnight that night. She survived the whole thing, and she gave birth to a healthy baby girl 2 days after the accident.
I believe she's Italian now.
Converted.
She wasn't even pregnant before the attack.
Yeah, exactly. She mysteriously got pregnant.
God bless her survival with a brand new baby.
Yeah. The only reason they like attribute this to the Axeman at all is because it wasn't financially motivated, and it was in the middle of the night looming over top of her bed. There was no axe involved with this one.
But the ones from 1911 where they're all axed to death in Italians, those definitely weren't him.
There's a 7-year gap between them too. Usually serial killers, if they're going to keep killing, they're going to just start going more and more often until a rampage happens. They're not going to take, usually if they're going to take cool down periods, they're going to kill, take a year off, kill, take 6 months off, kill, take 3 months off, kill, rampage, get caught. Like not kill a bunch of guys for take 7 years off. But there's people that say that maybe he was in jail, he was in the military, he was sent off somewhere, or he just traveled the country. Who knows? You're right. I don't, the way they read, it doesn't read the same. And people have said, like a lot of Axeman experts have discounted them. So I kind of just took them out. Otherwise, this episode could go on forever.
Yeah. Please continue with your detective work.
Okay. All right. After the Schneider attack, though, is when they start connecting these things together. So that's the only good part that comes out of the Schneider, whether it's an Axeman or not. They said, oh, guy's been breaking into people's houses in the middle of the night and assaulting people. So that's why they started connecting them, because of Schneider. Whether she did it or not, that's fine. So 5 days after that attack, Joseph Romano, another Joseph and another Italian grocer, was attacked by the Axemen. Romano lived with his two very young nieces, Pauline and Mary Bruno, and in the early morning hours of August 10th, 1918, heard a commotion in their uncle's room. When the two nieces entered the room, they saw their uncle covered in blood with serious blows to the head. He had 2 significant head wounds, and the nieces called for an ambulance right away. They were 15 and 13, I believe. As they found their uncle, they saw the assailant fleeing the scene with an axe in his right hand. The 2 teenage girls described him as a heavy-set, dark-skinned man wearing a dark suit and a slouched hat. So now it starts getting weird because he's a heavy-set dude climbing through a fucking door panel, you know?
He keeps the axe all of a sudden. Earlier, he used the axe from the house and left it there.
Yeah, no, he actually drops it outside when he leaves, but he takes it, he runs out with it. He leaves it there, though, basically. It was found there, too. It was their axe.
I like how they added in the dark skinned, you know? So let's just throw someone under the bus who's dark skinned. Why not?
It goes to say that they think it might be a Sicilian because the Sicilian had the darker.
What I want to know who those people were that they talked to, though. Were they white?
They're Italian.
Everybody's Italian, right?
Yes.
It was the 2 girls. His nieces saw him running out. The 2 young Romano girls, their last names are Romano. They're Italian as well. They lived in the house with the attack. Their uncle was being attacked.
I didn't realize it was the nieces. I thought you were saying 2 like random people outside saw it.
They're repeating this to the police officers after the attack happened.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Got that.
Their uncle Joe Romano was highly injured, but he was able to walk and get up into the ambulance. The Axeman did the same thing as the other. He like chiseled out the door panel and squeezed through there, apparently. The bloody axe was found in the backyard, much like the other scenes. Unfortunately, 2 days later, even though he walked out with the ambulance, he died of his injuries in the hospital. So head injuries are fucked up, man. Bob Saget just died that way, you know? Go get your head checked if you get smashed.
That's how Bob Saget died?
Head injury, yeah.
I just assumed he was old. I didn't even read any of the articles. I just assumed old.
I thought drugs.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be drugs too.
Yeah.
So after
a shitty Full House joke, but I'm not going to make it because it's Bob Saget.
His Aristocrats bit is the best one in the Aristocrats.
I didn't know Bob Saget was in the Aristocats. Was he the one playing piano?
Yes, he was in the Aristocats for sure. Meow, meow, fucking meow.
That's cool, dude. He's had such a rich filmography.
So after Joseph's murder, it was becoming apparent there was a trend, and it wasn't going unnoticed by anyone. The citizens, the police, the media were putting this all together. All of this was being reported by the local media. What was happening in New Orleans, I saw it described as extreme chaos. This guy was kind of starting to be described as the American Jack the Ripper. But like I said, he Americanizes the fuck out of it with an axe. You know, that's way cooler than the fucking Jack the Ripper.
And Italian immigrants instead of whores.
And apparently he's fat.
Yeah.
He might as well be draped in like a American flag cape or something.
Yeah, exactly.
A very large American flag cape.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in the papers. They were starting to put stuff on the cover of the paper, like, who's the next Italian to die from the Axeman? Like, that's how much panic was getting thrown around. Like, seriously.
It was the sports section of the paper. They were taking bets.
Yeah, it's a Coliseum sports section. It actually said Italians in New Orleans were starting to wonder who was the next victim. Like, that's what it said on the paper.
Well, yeah. I mean, knowing Italians, they were all just running to bet on it.
Yeah. So people were starting to arm themselves, staying up all night, guarding their houses, pistols, melee weapons in hand. They weren't helping the situation. The media wasn't helping the situation either. Enter retired Italian police detective John D'Antonio. D'Antonio. Don
John Tonio, got it.
Yeah, John D'Antonio.
Is he one of the three musketeers?
I guess so, yeah. D'Artagnan.
And yeah,
John
yeah.
D'Artagnan. John D'Artagnan.
That was the
He
three
starts
musketeers.
telling everyone that the recent slew of murders were connected to the four from 1911. So he starts actually adding more fuel, like the Axeman's back. D'Antonio cited the similarities in the attacks and described whoever was doing these things. Jesus Christ, this is a fucking stupid sentence. I am
Sound it out.
D'Antonio cited the similarities in the attacks and describes whomever is doing these attacks as being committed by someone who has a dual personality, like a Jekyll and Hyde. He was saying basically something we would describe as a fucking serial killer now, compartmentalizing kills and living a normal life during the day, just killing random people at night.
Yeah, Detective Tony Tonio is ahead of his time there.
He described a serial killer without knowing what a serial killer was, basically.
You joke, but he owns at least 3% of Giorno's now. So I mean, fuck off.
He's responsible for the rising crust. The drop in crime.
That was good.
So yeah, now everyone's super scared and everyone's seeing the Axeman everywhere. Axeman related stuff. Axeman, like people are finding axes in their backyard, calling the cops, being like, the Axeman was here. The Axeman was reported to police on many different occasions as being seen lurking in back alleys. So I guess the fat guys with slouch hats were in back alleys, and I was like, the Axeman's there. There's one incident where a man was caught sleeping in someone's backyard, and they're like, Axeman, and chased him off. So everyone was the Axeman after this.
That's an awesome approach. A great approach to capturing the Axeman is to run him off when he's sleeping.
Yeah, when he was sleeping though, so they go, Axeman's there, and they got 40 police officers and 2,000 citizens chased this fucking guy around the streets of New Orleans. They couldn't catch him though; they never found him. But they got a posse.
Wait a minute. So it was probably not the Axeman, right? But they got so many people to chase a random dude that was sleeping, and they never found him.
Exactly.
Well, he wasn't sleeping while they were chasing him.
Okay, thank you. That was
Rick, you fucking idiot.
I thought. I mean, yeah. Sorry.
So all the panic going around. There was so much panic running around the city at this time. I think the Axeman, whoever he or she was, whoever she was,
Axe person. I like
Axe
it.
person. Yeah, Axe woman.
Axe day.
So with all the panic brewing around the city, the Axeman took a few months off. I think he's like, I'm not going to kill anyone for a bit. Everyone's watching for me. Maybe he just was doing his cool down period. I don't know. He just
hide your axe. Don't leave your axe outside.
That probably would have
that's what they
mitigated
started
a lot of.
put your axe away. I will never. I want to live in a free country where I can put my axe wherever I want. I'm not going to live
Well,
here.
that's what they all crammed into that little steamboat all the way from Sicily for, was to live in a land of plenty of places to put your axe.
Somebody made a Germany on Facebook. prior to somehow.
I think I figured it out. They weren't able to find him because the Italians have all these pipes that they can just jump into at any time, and then they pop out of another one. There's this elaborate system. There's no way to find the guy.
Maybe the Axeman wasn't fat. Maybe he just ate a mushroom.
Yeah,
Made him
exactly.
a little bit bigger than everybody.
So he's in a cool off period or something. Nobody really knows what it is. There's a lot of theories as to why he wasn't killing. There was the Spanish flu rolling around in 1918. So maybe he was just sick. Maybe he just couldn't kill. There's a lot of things. Maybe he was an anti-vaxxer and he didn't want to isolate. He wanted to isolate. I don't know.
I wanted to live in Nazi Germany.
He walked into a turtle shell.
World War I was coming to an end around that time too. So maybe there was just family coming into town or something, Italians and their family. So
For 7 months.
who knows? There's just a lot of reasons people say maybe he had a girlfriend. Who knows? Maybe whatever. But he didn't start killing again until March 10th, 1919. This time he was in Gretna, Louisiana. I guess from what I understand, that's just across the river. That's not like it's far from.
It's still New Orleans, West Bank.
Still West Bank, so it's not even out of. How far would it be to drive to New Orleans?
From a part of New Orleans that matters to anyone to Gretna, it's like an eternity, but it's like 3 miles.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
want to go there, I promise. They have, unless it's Gretna Fest, then you can go see Steve Winwood or somebody of that nature. Joe Walsh.
Sign me up.
Right.
Sounds like a pleasant time.
And probably hitting the head with a bottle.
Nice.
It comes with a ticket to Gretna.
So yeah, March 10th, 1919, in the middle of the night, Rosie Cortamiglia woke up to her husband, Charles, wrestling with a large man wielding an axe. Their 2-year-old daughter, Mary, was asleep with them in bed, and when the commotion began. Once her husband was shot to the floor, heavily injured, the axeman turned his rage to Rosie and Mary. Rosie begged for their lives, but the axeman brought his axe over his head and he plunged it into the mother and daughter with no remorse. As screams retched out of the house, a neighbor and fellow grocer, 69-year-old Orlando Giordano, and his 18-year-old son Frank went to investigate the commotion. They found Charles on the ground in a pool of his blood, unconscious, and Rosie standing in the door with a serious head wound, clutching her recently deceased daughter in her hands.
What was the neighbor's name? Somebody.
Orlando Giordano.
What was his son's name?
Frank.
Just wanted to make sure. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
And we will call him.
So Charles and Rosie were rushed to the hospital. In addition to their many axe slashes, they both had skull fractures, but they both survived. This guy is batting fucking very low on the kill people with axe while they're sleeping.
Well, you got one of them.
He's not batting cleanup, that's for sure. He's like the eighth in the lineup.
He's 1 for 3 that night.
Yeah, he got the baby though. That's like a half. He doesn't even get a full point.
Yeah, no,
He did
that's
not get
good. I
full-
mean, axes are slow. Babies are small, and they can,
I guess you're right. That's actually better kill because
that's
it's harder
pretty
to hit.
accurate. Yeah.
Are we seeing a baby
Yeah.
with a hard target?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, we are.
For an axe.
I mean, I feel like
You got like a good 3 seconds from the backswing to get out of the way. So honestly, that one's on the baby.
Fully functional human. It's actually a person. It totally makes sense though. It's like stealing candy from an adult with an axe.
Fair point.
I find the fact that they survived is probably worse, though. They probably should have wanted to die after that. Their baby got slashed in front of them, and they're like, "Why didn't we die?" Like that's probably worse.
I mean, good with the bad. Think of the free time. There's no one hogging your bed at night now.
Without that, the little heater between us.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that first night you go to bed without the baby there, you're gonna be stretching your legs out. You'll be sad. Then you're like, ooh, so much space.
First 22 months were a breeze.
Yeah.
So those last 2.
The MO matched the Axeman to the T almost. Nothing was stolen. Chiseled door to get in the house. Bloody axe owned by the Cortamiglia family left near the scene of the crime. Charles Cortamiglia and Orlando were friends until just recently when they had a falling out because the grocery store that Frank and Orlando had just opened up near the Cortamiglia. So they just opened a new competing business. Like, why would you do that? We were friends, but they were pissed about them. Rosie pegs E. Giordano or whatever, E. Orlando as the attackers or responsible.
Oh,
Pegged them as the person responsible for the attack.
like that's some quality revenge if she pegged him.
Yeah. Charles, in fact, said his wife is crazy. They didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about. My wife's nuts. She got hit in the head with an axe. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Ultimately, the two were arrested, E. Orlando and Frank. And Rosie's testimony was enough to get E. Orlando and his son Frank put in jail for the rest of their life and sentenced to death, respectively. So Frank was on death row.
Wow. Oh, I'm confused. What happened with what did they do?
Rosie, the one that got hit, like the one that had the dead baby in her hand, she said it was their neighbors. She said it was them who did it. So the cops believed her, even though her husband was like, no, they didn't do it. She's crazy. I don't know what she's talking about. The cops still arrested them, still got her to put in jail. They still got, the old man got life in jail, and the young guy he was 6'2". He was big for the time, but he like
big for an Italian.
They carried it out. They killed him, executed.
No, we're going to get to it. No, they didn't get him. She recants her statement. Rosie recants her statement a year later.
They killed her?
No, she never got in trouble. They like kind of dropped it because she lost her kid. They were like, let's just leave this whole thing be. Let's get them out of jail. She just said it was out of jealousy and spite that she even accused her neighbors. They made a store next door.
Somehow I feel like they just dropped it without consulting Frank and Orlando. Because if that were me, I might be like, no, hold on, wait a minute. No, we're just gonna drop it. She's grieving.
You're overlooking the forgiving nature of the Italian people.
Am I?
The understanding, forgiving nature, the grudgeless Italians.
Yes. Without feud or rage.
We're gonna learn about Italian vendetta very soon.
Even Vendetta is Italian. That's an Italian last name.
Yeah. Well, it's an Italian term.
Vendetta. Yeah.
So, like I said, they were released about a year later after being arrested. Nothing. Maybe they did do some sort of vendetta, but it was not publicized, and it was 100 years ago. So, a couple days after the attack on the Court of Miglias, on March 13th, 1919, the Axeman writes a letter to the local paper, the Times-Picayune, which they print.
It's still in print.
Is it really? Yeah, the Times-Picayune is
the only paper in New Orleans that still exists in the flesh or whatever.
Yeah, still just waiting for people to learn how to read.
They're still trying to.
So here's the letter in its entirety. It's a little long, but it's awesome. It's like my favorite part of the whole story. The letter starts with this.
Hell, March 13th, 1919.
Like he's saying he's from hell right off the bat, which makes him kind of more like the Jack the Ripper of America, because Jack the Ripper would sign his notes with "from hell," right?
Esteemed immortal, they have never caught me and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from your hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of whom I have sent below to keep me company.
Redundant.
Yeah.
If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but his satanic majesty, Francis Joseph, etc.
Like, who's Francis Joseph? They just said his satanic majesty and Francis Joseph. Is that like the guy? His right hand man? Is that Satan's right hand man? I didn't know about Francis Joseph.
Frankie Joe, yeah. He and Satan go way back.
But
of Gentleman Lutrucci, Frank.
Frank. Yeah.
But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as the most horrible murderer, which I am. But I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. And at will, I can slay thousands of your best citizens. I am in close relationship with the Angel of Death.
Now here's where it gets hilarious to me.
This might as well be written in Italian.
Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I'm very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing, and at time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of you people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe.
So you got to jazz it out.
That's a really great way to take the sting out of all the hell stuff. Like, what was all the buildup for if you're just gonna make it unnecessary? I am a demon from hell here to kill you. But let's play some jazz.
Like the music.
Unbelievable.
Here we go. Here's the last paragraph.
Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that I may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fantasy. The Axeman.
I'm going to say realm of fantasy, the whole thing. Thoughts on that? Anything that's funny to come up before I start keep going with this?
I'm beyond confused. Everything.
What are you confused about?
I'm still trying to figure out how hell and jazz overlap.
Oh, jazz was like the bad people music. New Orleans then and now too was like a mixture of a lot of different cultures, right? So like black people were making jazz. They invented jazz, like modern jazz. So white people were like, that's the devil's music. The black people made it.
Yeah.
You know?
Back then it was cool. Today, though, I from my own personal experience, I can say that I have a hard time choosing between being struck with an axe in my sleep and having to listen to jazz. So from that perspective, hell, jazz, one and the same. I'm not a fan.
You see this figure wielding an axe in the night.
I'll tell you what. Oh, sorry, keep going.
All of it, all jazz. You don't like any of it?
I don't know if it's just because I have anxiety or what. I don't like the unpredictability of it. It's not comfortable to listen to. There's nothing soothing about just the erratic nature of it. I don't care for it.
Okay, I was just curious. I don't like it.
No, that's no further comment.
Well, what do you think happened? What do you think happened from this letter?
Probably the most awful thing anyone's ever heard for hours on end for one night in New Orleans.
Each and every jazz club on the night of the 19th was packed.
Party. Everybody party. Exactly.
Yeah.
You party.
Professional and amateur bands filled the city with the sounds of jazz. People were hiring bands to play in their houses. And if they couldn't afford a band to play at their house, they put on their record player and they're blasting jazz. And
can you imagine how fucking horrible that would sound? Just like 100,000 different jazz tracks all just blaring at the same time. Honestly, it would actually probably not sound any different than one jazz track blaring. So
say that. Yeah. And I was trying to interrupt you before you get the chance to. I failed. I don't think that radios were as loud back then, though. You know, they had like that horn thing on top of it.
I mean, they were probably scared as shit, so they probably did whatever they could to bump that shit.
Yeah,
everyone was terrified, so everyone played jazz whether they liked it or not. And the Axeman promised there were no murders that night. The jazz-filled streets kept them at bay.
Yeah, no, that were me. Come kill me.
I have no respect for a murderer that keeps his word.
Yeah.
Nothing sacred. You know what I mean? We can believe this fucking guy. Fuck that. Get out of here.
Here's what the people do now. So when they see the letter in the newspaper, some citizens sent their own letters to the paper to be published. One citizen invited the Axeman to come kill him. He must have been like, I don't want to hear all the jazz that night. Just come kill me. Like RJ. It's like, just print that. Just tell him to come to my house. Another citizen wrote a letter and asked the Axeman was going to kill them. If you're going to kill me, just don't break our door. I'll leave the window open. That's what another letter said. I just put the door in. I don't want to be killed. And my door broke.
Like oddly New Orleans as fuck for some reason. I don't know. I can't pinpoint that. It feels like it.
Okay, I fucking respect the shit out of that answer though.
That's New Orleans as fuck. It really is. It's like
I love if you're gonna kill me, kill me. Don't break my fucking door.
Don't be a fucking dick about it, you know?
Yeah, the day after the letter was printed in the paper, there was a song written about the Axeman. It was called "The Mysterious Axeman Jazz." Don't scare me, Papa. Of
course, it was. That is exactly the name I would have made up for it.
Yeah, written by John Joseph Davila. I have it. I could play it for you guys if you want to hear it, but it's not good. It sucks.
He wrote it in like 4 hours. You know, it was, he was under pressure.
Yeah.
Well, one of the funny things, and we'll talk about it in the theory, I might just say this part again, but one of the funny things is there was a guy like an organ grinder who was hired that night to run up and down the streets of New Orleans playing this song. So a lot of the people think that this guy just fucking John Joseph Davila sent the letter in to promote his song because he knew fucking everyone was going to buy it after, right?
He's a goddamn genius.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
I give him credit for the hustle.
Yet another example of the Times-Picayune getting fucking tricked into advertising for a jazz. Count on how many hands, how many times that's happened.
Yeah, that was in March when the jazz stuff. So he held off till August 1919, but he came back to his old tricks. He didn't go away permanently, but he definitely stayed away for a bunch of months.
Waited for the jazz to die down.
The 10th of August, in the middle of the night, Steve Boca woke up with an axe in his head. He sees a dark...
Wait a second.
Yep.
Can you just reread that last sentence for me, please?
On the 10th of that month, in the middle of the night, Steve Boca woke up to an axe, or with an axe in his head.
That's the problem.
He got smacked in the head. That's how he woke up.
Okay.
He said he saw a dark figure looming over his bed. Then he lost consciousness, which another guy that fucking survived. The Axeman flees his house, leaving the axe behind. After regaining consciousness, Boca runs to the street to find out what the hell just happened. And this is where he realizes he's bleeding from his head wound. So I guess he didn't even really notice he got hit until...
Enough to wake him up, but not enough to keep him from investigating.
Was the axe still in his head as he ran out into the street?
Yeah.
That's how he noticed.
Is there something weird about my head right now?
I'm hearing my vision.
Yeah. Did they have like fingerprinting available in 1918?
They did. Fingerprinting was invented.
Okay, so if he still had the murder weapon in his head, he just like saved Italians forever.
Okay. Fingerprinting exists. He didn't actually have the axe in his head. The fingerprinting did exist, but people weren't using it as a common practice in police forces yet. So people weren't fingerprinting thing. It was like very, very brand new.
We don't really buy into this fingerprinting bullshit.
Yeah, until they realized they could use it to frame people. Then they were all over that.
Yeah. That's true. Oh, did you say black people have this too? Let me get on that.
Who else has fingerprints?
Well, if you look at the inner swirl, you can clearly tell that this man was of color.
Right?
Yeah. So he goes and passes out outside after he figures out like I said, nothing was taken from the house. The back door was fucking chiseled out again, all Axeman stuff. He did survive, but he said he didn't remember anything from the incident. All he remembers is seeing a guy and then passing out. You got your head smashed in with an axe. Maybe you don't remember something. I'll give him that.
Is there any way that this is like just a bunch of proud Italians and like they're chopping wood and they miss? And they just don't want to admit it. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's all a big, scary guy.
A related question. We don't in New Orleans 30 degrees every fucking day. I don't know anyone that owns an axe. You know what I mean?
But back then they didn't have like heating like they do now. Like everyone would have to have.
I haven't turned wood for 10 years.
I guess so. You live in a place where it's not cold.
Yeah. It's like the northern point of the Caribbean. There's no need for...
Yeah, but this was pre-Katrina, so the weather is completely different.
That's a solid point. Barely,
Hmm.
barely.
Yeah.
To cook. They wouldn't have wood stove. Like they'd have wood
Oh,
stoves to cook,
true.
right? Like
Yeah.
there'd be wood needed back then. It
To
wouldn't be
make some
electricity everywhere yet.
calzone.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
How are they gonna make their
Yeah.
pizza?
It is
Yeah.
wood fire. That makes sense. That makes sense.
I'll tell you what, I didn't even know that tonight's episode was about Italians, and I had mozzarella sticks. So
Yes,
Really?
that the classic traditional Italian cuisine of cheese sticks.
you
Look
joke,
at you.
you joke,
Yeah.
but I mean,
I-
I'm fucking cultured, all right?
I dipped them in some nice fine ketchup sauce.
All right. The Axeman's not done yet. He's got one more. Less than a month later, on September 3rd, the Axeman climbs through a window of a single and living alone Sarah Lawman. When she's sleeping, she is beaten so badly with the axe that she's found unconscious with a massive head injury on her bed,
You
missing
survived
several
too?
teeth.
Jesus.
Also, same MO, bloody axe left on the scene on the front lawn. Sarah also survived, but she also said she doesn't remember the attack. She doesn't remember anything from the attack. And then the last but not least, the Axeman strikes one more time. This time it's almost Halloween. It's October 27th. Esther Pepitone was awakened by a loud noise that night. The mother of six rushed into her bedroom just in time to see an axe-wielding man of large stature running out of the room. When she enters the room, she sees her husband, Mike Pepitone, laying in a bloody mess. He had been struck in the head so violently that blood spatter covered the majority of the room, including their painting of the Virgin Mary. And the reason I say the Virgin Mary painting thing, it has nothing to do with anything. But for some reason, it's important because it's in every fucking article I read about Pepitone. So I was like, I got to write that. I got to say it out loud for everyone because it's in every article.
She was a virgin. Come on.
Come on. That's the official end of the Axeman murders. There's some murders in the late 20s. In the early 20s that some people consider to be Axemen, but have also been debunked.
It's an easy way to tell it's not him because they died.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He doesn't. He's fucking. There were mostly survivors.
There's six people died. 12 people, or 6 people died. 12. Sorry, 6 people died. 6 people injured.
Okay, but one of
whatever.
them was 2 years old, so you round down. That's not even gonna count.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this guy should have way better kill ratio.
Whoa.
He killed Vincent Van Gogh's old lady during surgery. He killed a baby. That's all I remember dying. And this.
That's true. That's true. If those two are trying to be attributed to that count, he's down to 4.
Pump
think
those
those
numbers.
two
Pump
maybe.
those numbers.
If you carry the one and the remainder of fuck this guy.
So that's all the murders, and I'll just kind of go through the theories now, and then you guys can interject here too.
Mafia.
So that's the first theory. Basically, it's not really a theory. It's just kind of like, anyway. So it's got the theory Vendetta, the Vendetta. This theory, it says that there's not really a specific
It's not one
one
guy.
Axeman.
That's what I was saying.
It comes down to cultural differences with the Italian population being so thick in the New Orleans area. So in the late 19th century, after the Civil War, plantation owners were looking for cheap labor to replace their now illegal slave workforce. New Orleans already had a pretty big Italian population. Sorry.
Can we backpedal for a second and how you just referred to Italians like they're smog?
They're thick.
Yeah. You said the Italian population was thick, like it was hanging in the air like pollution.
New Orleans already had a pretty big Italian population, and New Orleans before the Civil War. But once sugarcane and cotton plantations were hiring, Sicilian immigrants flooded into the port of New Orleans. By 1900, New Orleans had the biggest Italian population in the South, about 20,000 immigrants, including their children, mostly Sicilians. Sicilian immigrants were known to be they wanted to get out of working in the shitty, so they'd save their money. They wouldn't spend their money on, they're frugal. They didn't waste their money on frivolous
What
things.
does the article say? What word does the article say that you're not using?
If they're just trying to like, the reason I'm saying it this way instead of it's because it's like fucking 5 paragraphs for them to say that these Italians like to save their money. We don't like them because they save their money, because then they just leave the workforce. That's basically what they're saying. They're like, these guys are too frugal. They don't spend their money, so we always lose our Italians. They go off and make their own fruit stands or whatever.
They're not participating in their God-given right to capitalism. That's
Yeah.
their biggest offense.
So that's basically what the stage of this would be. They would go immigrate, go work on the plantation, save for a couple of years, open up like a little fruit stand or something, save up for a couple of years doing that, and then open up a grocery store.
And then they buy a gold chain with a shark tooth on it.
Yeah. Spray tan.
Can I say that is literally my landlord's legacy? Well, my old landlord, I own a home now. I'm no longer underneath the thumb of an Italian. His family. Yeah. It's easy to slip out because it's all covered in olive oil. But his family they literally opened up a fruit stand around here, and then it was a grocery store, and now they just own fucking business after business after business after like 100 years. It is the classic Italian American dream.
Here's something I didn't really know about the Italian stuff. Like, since Sicilians had a darker skin tone than the white people that worked, and they also worked alongside the black workers in the plantations, white people were like calling them Dagos. That's where the Dago names, like, they're just as bad as Negroes. They're Dagos. They're just as bad as the Chinese. They're untrustworthy, saving people. They're pieces of shit.
And while that is very racist and horrible, I will never forgive them for that, not because it's racist, but because it is all annoying Italians we'll talk about now in perpetuity, even though they're effectively living in 2022 and white for all intents and purposes and gaining all the privilege from that. They will never let you forget something that happened 100 years ago to them. Not even them.
And they own like what, 62% of MTV?
Is that true?
No, I don't know.
I got it. It was a good joke. It was a good joke.
That's crazy if it is true.
The exact number is true. It'd be really weird.
Especially that specifically, yeah.
So just so you guys know, by 1880, 7% of all grocers in New Orleans were Italian-owned. By 1900, 19%. And by 1920, half the grocers were Italian-owned in New Orleans. So with a large influx of Sicilians came the ways from the old country. In the old country, Sicilians didn't trust the police and took care of their issues themselves, if you know what I mean. So the immigrants, as the immigrants came to America, they were same issues. They didn't want to trust the police, and they wouldn't go to the authorities if there was any problems. They would just do the vendetta, which is basically an Italian term for a blood.
The NOPD is very trustworthy. I just want to go on the record and say that the New Orleans Police Department, you can definitely trust them. Yes, I don't know what they're talking about with that one.
Is that sarcasm? Because
of course.
Good. I was like, is he being serious right now? Because I
absolutely fucking not. No, no, not at all.
So they just did their own thing. And I think this is why a lot of the people didn't remember the attacker, because it was some sort of Italian vendetta coming back at them. Like, a grocer up the street didn't like the fact that you opened up a fucking grocery store. So they called the Black Hand, which is what they called the mafia. Yeah. You don't take my extortion. You don't pay for my my $50 a month or whatever for protection, then I come fuck you up. Like the classic extortion story.
You pay me to protect you from me. You know, same thing.
Yeah. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, Decanter Street had so many stabbings and gun fights. It was nicknamed Vendetta Alley. So I don't know if Decanter Street means something to you, but I think that was kind of fun.
It's Decatur Street. They spelled that wrong.
Okay, Decatur Street. Autocorrect probably changed it to Decanter. You know, when I was typing. Like I said, the Black Hand, the mafia would settle all their scores for them. The authorities wouldn't even help them, even if they went to them anyway. They just call them stupid Dagos.
Do you know where that comes from? I don't know where Dago comes from.
I do. It's because they would work alongside the Negroes, so they just started calling them Dagos because they're like bright. They're not as dark, so it's like a Dagro. Like, it came from being like it's just racism running.
Yeah, totally. Down. I know that without papers is also like a
WAP. Yeah, without papers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I knew it. I just didn't know where.
Yeah, I think this is why Rosie, the one that lost her baby or whatever, and Charles probably denied it because he knew it was Vendetta, but she was like, "You went too far. You killed my kid, so I'm going to tell on you." And then Vendettas just go worse and worse with these mafia types. So they shut their mouth. I think the mafia probably would have like a crazy axe guy that would break into houses and do axe shit. You know what I mean? That the Axeman could just be a hitman or like someone like that, or someone who would just take a fucking axe from a house and kill someone. Fucking psychos. And they probably all knew who this guy was, the whole Italian neighborhood, but they just weren't saying anything in fear of more retribution. But there's a couple problems with this theory in general. John D'Antonio, our Italian retired police officer at the time, he was considered the expert of the mafia in the New Orleans area. He said that if it were the mafia, no one would have survived. They would have actually killed them. There wouldn't have been any like bouncing off thick skulls of an axe.
That is a classic overdramatic Italian statement right there.
Right. We don't even fail at killing ourselves.
Yeah. Nobody kills Italians like Italians kill Italians.
This guy here was more on the serial killer camp, though, which it does have an MO and it does do stuff like that. But at the same time, hitman has MO. Hitmen have MOs. That doesn't necessarily mean they're serial killers. If they're doing it for serial killers are like what? Do it for pleasure. Hitman would do it for money, financial gain.
I think there's like the requirements to be a serial killer are pretty few. I think you just have to kill 2 people.
To kill 2 people at a span of time. Like you can't just go shoot a school up. You're a mass killer. Then there's things, but you're not really a serial killer if you're a hitman because you're not doing it.
How many schools do you have to shoot up to be a serial killer?
You have to do serial mass murder. That would be interesting.
At least 2.
That would be interesting.
Is it? Yeah, is it at least? But they have to fit a criteria.
It's just the way they're all pieces of shit. It's just the way they're categorized, so you can profile them. It just makes it easier to figure out what this kind of person would be if you can put them in their different category. So, like, if you're a serial killer, you're more likely like have a job that doesn't require you leaving the house or something. You're a loner. You don't have many friends. Or if you're mass murderer, probably the same shit. Just your parents are Republican big gunheads. You know what I mean? Yeah, we both said the same thing, just in different words.
Yeah, right.
So that's the only real problem with the mafia theory is the fact that they think that a mafia people would have finished the job, which I don't really know about that. I think I'm really before I get too far, I literally think it's the mafia. Like that's I think my pick for the whole thing. But we'll talk about some more stuff with it.
I mean, it could be one of those like lone, not mafia related Italian murderers from the Italian. You know? Not forget about that.
No, why not? Let's not forget about that. So here's some theories about the letter and why it was sent and stuff like that. Not really about who the killer is, but just the intent of the letter. This is all stuff that I found. I didn't make this up. So this is just why I have to write it because it's fun.
Wait, you made this up?
No, this is okay. Some of it's just me postulating, being a jackass, but this is not me. This is why it's funny. The Axeman getting revenge against Italians for taking credit for black jazz musicians' music. So it's just some black dude who's just like, got to kill off those Italians because they just stole my music.
That sounds like a very Italian theory.
It does. Yeah. It really does.
A racist.
To be fair to this theory or whatever, a lot of music has been stolen from black people, and jazz is one of them.
Totally.
A lot of everything has been stolen from them. I mean,
100%.
Sure.
Yeah,
totally agree with that. But I can't think of an Italian saxophone player. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
The great Joey Tony Saxophonio of New Orleans back then.
Only saxophone is
the best lips of any Itai in the land.
No one lifts a saxophone like Joey Tony Baroni saxophone. Lifts a saxophone.
Joey Tony Baroni saxophone doesn't sound phony at all. Sounds real.
Phony Joey Tony, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. The other reason, here's another theory as to why the letter was even sent to the Axeman is upset about the New Orleans closing of the red light district. So apparently in 1917, the Navy shut down the whole red light district, the gambling dens, the brothels, the dance halls and dance clubs.
Yep.
So everyone in New Orleans was pissed about that. So the one Axeman's like, let's make jazz one last night, guys, and get my dick sucked by a hooker. Let's do this.
With my mistress in my bed and my ex-wife in Chicago. Or my actual wife is
That sucks because they didn't want Italians and jazz, and then they shut down the red light district. So, what was Joey Tony Saxophone going to do with those lips? You're wasting the best Italian lips in all of New Orleans.
Joey Tony Baroni Saxophone now eats bologna because he's out of work.
Yeah, he can't blow a saxophone. He can't suck a dick. Poor man.
Right?
Can't suck some macaroni. All right, I made a rhyme more. The Axeman, here's another theory as to why that letter was even sent. The Axeman was trying to make jazz mainstream. All right, so he just wanted everyone to listen to jazz so they would understand why it's so amazing, and then not everyone think it's the devil's music anymore by sending a letter that says you're from hell. I don't get that one, but that's
literally the devil. He's like, look, no, I'm the devil. I can tell you there's no jazz in hell. I know that for a fact because I'm the devil. What better source than me, the devil? I don't buy it.
All right. So the last theory about the letter is that the Axeman didn't even write the letter, which I kind of talked about up top a little bit. Miriam Davis, who wrote The Axeman of New Orleans, a true story. How many times has insert serial killer or thing that we're doing a true story ever been written? Just me talked about in the show so far. So many times. DB Cooper, the true story. Fucking Amelia Earhart, a true story. Actually, her book was shitty. It was called 27 Hours, 15 Minutes or whatever. But anyways.
Yeah, they didn't even solve it correctly. Fucking assholes.
So she wrote Axeman, New Orleans, true story, denies that the real Axeman could have written the letter at all. She says the Axeman was part of the working class, therefore probably couldn't even write. The Axeman was, yeah, that's her prediction.
How does she know that? How does she know?
Because of literacy rates in the 1900s, early 1900s.
Yeah, they were at 0%.
No. I'm not asking about the second part. I'm saying, how does she know that he was a part of the working class?
Because it would have the way
rich people like to kill. Have you ever seen The Purge?
And O.J. Simpson.
Purge is a movie, and O.J.'s.
Yeah, that's what you think.
Just to have that back in, you know.
Come to the U.S. You'll find out.
She says, Miriam Davis says that he probably couldn't even write. How does she know that, Rick? I don't really fucking know. I'll tell you that much. She just did a lot of research on it, wrote an entire book, so I'm sure she had some sort of reasoning, but she doesn't get into it in depth. So I'm just going to trust the expert. I'm going to trust the expert on this.
I hate these people that just do bullshit research and then just immediately come up with a theory and they spout it in their book or on their podcast.
Especially when there's like more than one of them, you know.
And just expect everybody to be like, oh yeah, they automatically know the answer. Right? It's like one person correctly said the California state killer is a cop, and all of a sudden he gets discovered and he was a cop at one point, and they're like, oh, I knew it the whole time.
I agree with you. I could have been a rich person. Why not? I don't see why I couldn't have been. Put it this way. This is what she follows that up with. Okay. She says it would have to be someone who is very well educated, like a jazz musician, because she claims it's the fucking guy who wrote the Axeman Jazz. Why would a jazz musician be any more educated than the fucking working man?
I'm assuming if you have time to learn how to read sheet music, that somebody taught you how to read words. I'm gonna throw that out there. I don't know if that's
definitely not true. But first of all, they're not reading sheet music at all.
I was gonna say that for sure. They're just
it has to be music first.
You're thinking of
I just want to say I used to play the saxophone.
Are you Joey Tony Saxophone? And
holy shit, he's here with us
the whole time.
Joey Tony Baroni Saxophone.
I wish
he's talking into his microphone.
I wish I still had my saxophone because I would just keep it by my desk and just have it ready.
Mozzarella sticks and bologna.
Yeah. We've known it the whole time. Since the second you said that I ate mozzarella sticks, we should have fucking known.
Oh, it went right over our heads.
They're coming from inside the house.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, she thinks it's the well-educated jazz musician Joseph Davila. Davila's song, "The Mysterious Axeman Jazz," was released almost the same week as the publication of the letter, basically the same night, because I was reading that it was being played up and down the street that night.
Is he related to Corella Davila? Is that this guy's wife? If so, I have a new theory. If that's true.
No Cruella, but I want to hear the theory anyway.
And Cruella that did it. Obviously, she's killing puppies and people. It's an easy, but
Based on the aesthetic of the movie, I believe the timelines match up. So,
and there's that.
And all the Axeman wants to do is, or Cruella, wants to do is kill things at the same intelligence level, and puppies and Italians are the same intelligence level.
Oh
right?
yeah, she's like, I want a beautiful fur Italian coat.
Full-grown dogs are completely safe.
Yeah, they're smarter than Italians,
right?
She's got a scarf made out of women's lips and mustaches,
and gold shark necklaces.
Whoever wrote the letter at the end of the day, it's like it still scared the shit out of the city. Honestly, it probably did as much damage as the Axeman. I'm sure a lot of people got fucked up, people thinking they were the Axeman. So this guy was kind of a dickhead as much as ever. I think John Joseph wrote the letter. Honestly, it makes the most sense.
100%. Yeah, really.
Yeah, and he probably did just as much damage as the Axeman. Like a lot of people got injured, just like the Axeman did. Not a lot of people died, but I'm sure a lot of people got fucked up. Yeah. Here's some fun theories that are out on the internet. The Axeman is a demon.
Well, he told us that.
Exactly. In the letter. He said he was a demon.
The only thing we know for sure.
The letter comes from hell, goddammit. He likes jazz, the devil's music. He even says he has a close relationship with the angel of death. It must be a demon. The Axeman, here's the other fun one, which I find is outrageous. The Axeman is a supernatural being that can shrink himself down to a smaller size and make himself like he's Ant-Man. Like that's why he only needed to cut out a little side of the door.
And that tracks.
Well, we were talking about this. They solved it years ago with this fucking theory.
Yeah. And he was not, he couldn't control the shrinking very well. So he was too tiny when he was trying to swing it. That's why so many people survived. There's only a couple times that he got up to full size. And then that's when he got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, I think his issue was how he had those things that he could like make things bigger or smaller. He just would forget to make the axe bigger. And
that's
then he's
true.
They're trying to fucking like chisel through someone's head.
Yeah, a little ball peen axe.
The guy would wake up and like Ant-Man's on his fucking eye, and he's like, "I just saw this thing standing over top of me."
Perspective.
Hacking through his eyelashes like they're tree trunks.
But that's such a funny idea. He's so close to the eye that you think he's like a normal sized human, but it's all perspective.
A large figure.
I'm the demon here to get you.
I'm from hell.
Oh fuck, hold on. Let me turn the oh shit, how does this thing work?
We're just killing Italians in a small demon.
So here's the this one here is my theory, which it's just basically what Darron said off the top, is Andrew Maggio is the Axeman. DiMaggio. It wasn't written anywhere. It wasn't written anywhere. I just thought of this because, well, put it this way: they accused Andrew of killing Mr. and Mrs. Joe, like his brother and sister-in-law, at the time.
He obviously did.
I think he did for sure.
But
did. I think, yeah, he was a barber. He lived there. Barber. What a straight razor kills them. A thing a barber has.
Who wants to hear their brother fuck in the room next door more than
exactly.
I have 5 brothers, none of them will survive that.
Yeah, and it doesn't even look like someone broke into that house. It looks like someone chiseled out a thing, but like, why could they be so quiet? He could just woke up, came home in a drunken stupor, slit their throats because he didn't want to fucking hear about them fucking later. Drunken asshole. And then he makes it look like someone broke in.
When he laid down already, and he's like, "How do you guys feel about Huey Lewis in the news? Like fucking American Psycho, you know?" He's fucking hacking his brother up.
I have a feeling they're going to be a band in 60 years.
They all, the guy's clothes were outside the house, like as if the guy, like Andrew, just changed in his room and threw the clothes outside, right? They also found a red stained shirt in his room. The police.
There was a stained shirt in Andrew's room.
Yeah, red stain shirt in his room.
Yeah, but that very easily could have been one of his clients' blood.
Or like a spaghetti sauce.
That too, for sure. It for sure was spaghetti sauce, but maybe also blood.
It ends up being wine. They figured out it's actually wine.
It's hard to tell the difference between early 1900s Italians blood and science where it was at the time.
The police were so sure that he killed his brother that he wasn't even allowed to go to the funeral. He was held up in questioning for hours, 4 hours, I believe, that day, the funeral day. They're like, today's the day we're doing it. The razor found at the scene was not the one that killed Joseph and Catherine. It was a different one that they found around near where the axe was. It was found outside. It doesn't change the fact that it could have been him anyway.
It's like he handled Gretel the murder material from his room to outside. Clothes, the fucking razor, all leading to the bloody marinara shirt in his room. Really hard to figure it out.
So after he gets away with the murder of his brother and sister-in-law, Andrew gets the taste for murder and decides to continue doing it. That's how serial killers usually start. They kill someone and they continue repeating the pattern over and over.
Maybe he hated it and it was just a really elaborate cover that he committed to cover up his brother's murder.
Exactly what I was going to say. What better way to hide your crime of passion than to dilute that?
Yeah,
killing
for
other
sure.
It would explain why he never really killed him too. I don't really want to do this.
Right? Also, he's like, I wanted to be the razor killer. They call me the axe. I don't even know what you. They monikered him out of 6 good kills.
He fucking saddled him with an axe. Fuck,
Fine, I'll kill you with an axe.
Axe is only 2 letters. 3, 2, 3.
The last theory, which is the most widely believed theory out there, is, and it's the only real suspect they ever had for the Axeman, which is a guy named Joseph Mumfree. Mumfree's the Axeman. He was a criminal and ran a blackmailing gang in New Orleans at the time. He tried to blackmail grocers into paying them protection. Like, he was an extortionist. He had a little crew of people that would go around extorting. He was in jail actually from 1912 till 1917, like the time when it was quieted down from when they think the earlier murders might have been connected to him.
You mean the previous axe murderers that are exactly the same as the ones that were?
They're similar. I wouldn't say exactly the same, but yes, they are very similar for sure. But he was in jail during that time, and when he was arrested in 1919, he had a list of names in his notebook of people he was blackmailing. Not only was Pepitone, remember our buddy Pepitone, he was on that list, but also Angelo Albano.
You've said a lot of Italian names.
Mike Pepitone.
Mike Pepitone and his wife. Remember, his wife was the wife of 6. She had 6 kids.
You think they called him Pepperone? Like for pepperoni? I would call him Pepperone. Yo, what's up,
Pepperoni with the saxophone, Jody Baloney eating spaghettoni. I don't know what we're doing.
Macaroni.
Anymore.
What the fuck?
It's crazy because all of these just sound like Pete Davidson characters.
Nothing matters right now other than Spaghetti Tony. Continue.
Yeah, so Mike Pepitone.
We got Tony Awards. Oh, the Italian actors. Robert De Niro gets a Spaghettoni. Al Pacino gets a Spaghettoni.
Only Italian actors.
There's no one that acts like Italian
DiCaprio.
Like Italian actor. I went to school with Pepitone. He was a fucking jerk off. I hope he's doing well. It's been a long time, and I hope he's doing well.
Maybe he's not such a jerk off anymore. Who knows? He sounds like a jerk off though. He's Italian.
Fucking jerk off.
Man, I'm just happy that I'm German. You guys have nothing to attack us on.
Yeah.
Why would you set up a target? Why would you be like, my turn? Let's leave the Italians alone. Let's go with the fucking Germans now.
I just figured let me throw some lightheartedness in there for the Italian at home that's just getting their axe ready to go.
So Germans did do the Holocaust and everything, which I agree is terrible.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, that's. Whoa.
We know the axe murders happened. We don't. I mean,
if we pull the scope out a little bit and we gloss over the Holocaust and just say World War II,
it's straight to Angela Merkel. I mean, that's a winner.
Yes, but I also mean Italians were really bad in World War II as well, and then everything else with them.
Hey, don't steal my solve.
I'm literally just trying to advocate against Italians. I have no idea.
All right, that's fine then.
In the
That's fun.
arms of an angel. Was that should be
All
playing
right.
the
So when they
background.
arrest Mumphrey in 1919, he had a list of names in a notebook, the people he's blackmailing. One of them was Pepitone. We talked about him earlier, who was murdered. Another person on there was a guy named Angelo Albano. I'm going to get to him in a second. Pepitone was one of the Axeman victims. He was one that left his wife as a widow with 6 kids. Joseph Mumphrey is the Axeman, is what crime writer Colin Wilson proposes. The way the theory plays out is this. Esther Pepitone, soon after the murder of her husband, Mike, marries a guy named Angelo Albino. Albino. She had 6 kids, so she wasn't going to work. So Albino apparently owed Mumphrey 500 early 1900s money, American dollars. So that's probably a lot of money for, I didn't do the calculations, but it's a shit ton. And Mumphrey, being the criminal that he is, when he doesn't get his money, he makes Albino disappear on October 27th, 1921, 3 years after the last Axeman murder, exactly to the day. And he just disappears. They don't never find his body or anything like that.
It's weird how often the follow-up crime is on the exact day. OJ went to jail for that robbery shit exactly 10 years to the day after he got fucking whatever. Gates was arrested for Robert Peake's killing 10 years after he should have been let jail initially for his 10-year bid.
It's interesting.
I guess just twice then.
But what I say, I mean, I bet you if we looked into that more, there'd be a lot more coincidences like that. It's all simulation anyway.
So yeah, right. And time is fake too, so I guess you can factor that in.
Exactly. He disappears. Anglo, he's gone, but he never paid Mumphrey. Month and a half after he disappears, on December 5th, Mumphrey pays a visit to Esther asking for the $500. So he threatened that if she didn't pay up, he would kill her like he killed her husband. So instead of paying the money, she just shoots him in self-defense, and then tells everyone he was the Axeman. She goes around telling everyone, like, that was the guy that killed my first husband, Mikey.
Nice.
Mike wasn't the guy with the mistress and the wife in Chicago?
That's Charles.
No, that was
Right?
Charles Cardamoglia or whatever his fucking
Oh
name.
yeah, okay, my bad.
There's lots of people, right? That's just hard.
I think it was the Italian Mafia. Did I say that already?
Yeah, I think it's the Italian Mafia.
They killed there was JFK murder and they killed JFK. That's their two big things.
So the problem with the Mumphrey theory is that he's in jail. Not only was in jail for that gap between 1911 and 1918, he was also in jail like a bunch of times when the other murders were happening too. And it's hard to track down if this Esther story even happened or if Mumphrey was even a real person. All the shit from records back then are all shit. I don't know how this guy got his theory and put it all together. Crime writer Michael Newton is another guy who dug into the solution, and he had a hard time finding any information about any of these characters. Like I did. I went and tried to do it too. Records are old. There are newspaper articles about it. Birth and death records don't really follow, but maybe not. I don't really know. There's another theory out there about copycat killers. So once somebody got killed with an axe, it just became people start killing people with an axe, get away with whatever the fuck you want. It's kind of the mafia vendetta, but like it could just be like kill someone with an axe. They're saying there's an Axeman out there. If I kill your friend, like if I kill someone with an axe, somebody I don't like, I'll just blame it on the Axeman. I'll get away with it. So there's like 10 different Axemen or whatever.
The copycat injurer is not a thing that happens though.
Yeah, exactly. Copycat maimer.
Right.
Nobody kills Italians like Italians. You know what I'm saying now, man? Let's see what I can see. People have their own theories, and I want to see what's going on here.
There's cholesterol. Cholesterol probably kills a lot of Italians too.
Yeah.
A silent killer.
High blood pressure, man. Why do you think that one blood splatter was 7 feet long? Capicola.
It's primed and ready to go.
Mozzarella sticks. All right, so I do agree that some of these were probably copycats or faked or, police shoddy work by the police. But what I do want to point to is March 13th, 1919 is when the supposed letter was sent to New Orleans. What else happened immediately after that? On March 23rd in 1919, Mussolini formed his fascist party. So my theory is that he was using this entire axe murder as a campaign. He wrote the letter, right? Mussolini could easily read and write, got his whole campaign started up, and then who disappears? The axe murderer. And when does he become prime minister? 1922. And just to put the final nail in the coffin. Hold on, I got so many fucking tabs here.
A hell of a way to sow anti-American propaganda by
boom. Mussolini holding the Pocone. It's an axe.
That's
Italian.
No. It's not just an axe in Italian. Axes aren't axes in Italian. Then it's not a fucking axe.
It's a pickaxe. The Pocone.
You're gonna add prefixes onto it. Doesn't count.
Plus, they're Italian, so they don't really know what an axe is.
I don't know. The timeline.
You had me all there until you called that an axe, Rick.
There was 4 years in this, you think?
Sorry, I was trying to get you while you're telling the rest of your theory while the Axeman song be playing in the background.
Down in New Orleans.
Tell me this isn't some shit that Mussolini would hold a fascist uprising for. Come on. And I'll tell you what, if there's one person that resonates with the idea of who can kill Italians better, it's fucking Mussolini.
Down in New Orleans.
Isn't this funny though? This is supposed to be the scary Axeman song, and it sounds like it's like a JRPG in a shop buying potions.
The fucking the Benny whatever Hill Show song.
Okay, I don't know what jazz is. That was not jazz.
I don't think I know what an organ grinder is because I had a very different image in my head, and I don't feel the thing that I created could make that type of music.
This is a very modern equivalent of what they would have been playing back then. So it's like playing off of sheet music on a computer.
Yeah, it's this is the only instrument I've ever seen with wheels.
Oh my fucking God. Okay, give me one more second. Okay, sorry. I just stumbled upon something completely by accident. Okay.
Accident?
Here is the flag of Italian fascism. It's got a fucking axe on it.
Dude, you finally found an axe.
All right, yeah. All right.
It's an axe.
All right.
I agree.
Tell me it's not Mussolini.
It's not
Mussolini running through. It's not Mussolini, but it's Mussolini running through the Sicilians. I legit think it's the. Okay, I do like what you're doing here. I'm not gonna discount what you're doing. This is funny.
Oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, nobody's brought up that Mussolini in all the writings that I've done.
What are the fucking chances that 10 days later this motherfucker founded the fascist party? That's wild. I Googled it and that was shit luck. I didn't know that in advance. I don't know shit about Italy.
1-to-1. Those are the chances.
Darren, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with your solve here that we think it's actually, what are we going to go with before? Darren, you got any theories that we could use before we'll take yours into consideration before we solve this?
I think it was Mike Pepitone's wife.
Mike Pepitone's wife just went on a rampage.
Yep. I don't know if she started it, but she definitely took it over and made it. It's prime time was when it was under the Pepitone old lady.
That's fair. Maybe she brought all of her 9 kids with her, so that's why they thought it was a big dude. It was just a lady with 9 kids on her back.
Didn't she lose one? Was it her lost one? Her 2-year-old?
No, it was the young couple.
Different lady.
I'm confused. All Italians look the same. Is that something I can say?
We can say whatever we want. It's a comedy podcast. Well, then what are we going to go with, guys? Are we going with Sicilians working through fucking Mussolini? Just trying to get rid of the Italian population.
I'm fine with that theory if we're not going to go with an out of work and desperate Joey Tony
factory worker
Baroni saxophone
playing with his little macaroni.
Yeah,
because nothing rhymes with mozzarella, so
lots of fellas rhymes with mozzarella, but I'm not getting into that.
Killing lots of fellas.
Not getting into that.
Jumping on mozzarellas. And he's also eating spaghettoni. So
aren't we all?
Okay, well, we solved it. I think that's a pretty good solve. What do you think?
It's one of the two.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think, Rick? So, are you satisfied with your solve, Mr. Wood?
The only reason I can state for sure that I'm completely satisfied is because we fucking nailed it. That's why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. We nailed it. I'm
High
down with
fives
that.
all around.
High fives all around. And to play us out of this episode today, I will be playing Axeman Jazz.
Awesome.
I just watched Private Dicks and I think RJ's the funniest.
What? Come on.
Hey there, all you private dickheads. That's probably not the name we're gonna stick with. Anyways, RJ here. I am here to tell you thank you for listening to another episode of Private Dicks. If you liked what you heard, go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere they take your reviews, drop us 5 stars, say something nice. Also, what you just heard was from last season. If you want current episodes as they're dropped, head on over to patreon.com and search up Unethical Podcast. That's our mother podcast. I was not aware Private Dicks was a spinoff. I'm going to renegotiate my contract. On Patreon is a full 16-episode season more of Private Dicks, uncut videos of each episode, and many more things are getting added all the time. You can also find all of Unethical's content on there, so go listen to that. And if you're already a patron, fuck yeah, dude. You're the best.